Hello everyone. This video lecture is aimed for those students or aspirants uh, for competitive exams, be it CSS or PMS, who want to know about the syllabus of environmental science. This video will help them in understanding the contours of syllabus as what is included in this syllabus. And secondly, they will, after going through this video, they will be able to decide on as they are going to opt this subject or not. Genesis of syllabus includes the 8 chapters in the syllabus of environmental science. The first chapter is about history of environmental thoughts. History means the starting point of environmental thoughts or environmental sensitization in the past and the evolution of environmental sciences as a field to the present. And environmental thoughts means in past there were many disciplines which were distinguished from each other, like zoology, like botany, like ecology, like forestry. Each subject was studied on the basis of some understanding, some contours, like to understand the science of forest, deforestation, afforestation, and different issues within the sector of forestry. People study forest or forest science or forestry. To understand biodiversity or threats to biodiversity, people would study biology. And to understand habitat, niche, and ecological services, people would study or call that study as ecology. But there was no understanding of environmental issues. When, for example, Rachel Carson in his book Silent Spring came up with an idea that the usage of fertilizers have lasting impacts on the environment, and these fertilizers or these pesticides become part of food chain and is a threat for whole environment, for soil, for water, for human health. And for the first time, the thoughts about environment were developed, and these thoughts are called environmental thoughts. Means for the first time, human beings became aware of environmental issues, as environmental science is a multidisciplinary subject. It means there are cross-cutting issues. For example, if we use fertilizers in agriculture, it impact different sectors. For example, through runoff, if these fertilizers are becoming part of water bodies, then not only marine life get disturbed, but the health of human is also impacted. It means that water sector, agriculture sector, health sector, these all sectors are disturbed by human actions. That's why we call it environmental science. Or if you are sensitized about those issues which are impacting the human environment multiply, we call it environmental thoughts. So basically, history of environmental thoughts is the debates and developments that shape the history of environmental science. Means those debates in the past, in written form or otherwise. And developments means the unsustainable pattern of human development in the past, be it technological development, be it nuclear development, be it any project which was carried by human unsustainability and unsustainably is called development that shaped the history of environmental sciences. The debates and developments have a role to sensitize people on the issues of environment. Means they came to know, they observed it that the development which is unsustainable is destroying our biophysical environment. If we go into the details of contours of these syllabus of first chapter, the lines of first chapter, we come to know that in first chapter there is a philosophy, a simple philosophy, that we live in this environment and we have ecological services in this environment. In past, if we go to the history, there living in this environment, human being faced several or multiple issues like poverty, like malnutrition, like energy insecurity, food insecurity. Now, to tackle those issues, human beings started development projects. But those development projects were on unsustainable pattern. And due to not making their developments on sustainable pattern, there were consequences of those development projects. So to ensure that we do a development project that generate revenue, that improve economic situation, that combat those issues which were faced by human being, but not at the cost of environmental degradation. So there came another thought, that was sustainability, which means integrating economy, society, and environment. Means we do development project in a way that it improves our economic condition, but at the same time, we are preserving the natural resources. And when these thoughts developed and they evolve gradually throughout the history from past to now, through debates, through written books, uh, through UN resolutions, and through mass movements, movements by civil societies or international governmental organizations. Industrial revolution opened the eyes of many scientists to see the treatment of human being towards environment. In industrial revolution, the main concept was to produce more and more food, to end starvation, to maximize the profits, profit maximization, or economic improvements. But the industries emitted GHGs, and secondly, in agriculture, human beings used pesticides. And then the results were obvious for many researchers and scientists, like we quote example of Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. So they sensitized humans on the issues of environment. Then there were some uh, disasters or developments like after World War One, there was Chernobyl nuclear issue, and people observed with their eyes that how these nuclear issues are destroying all of the environment, which is a threat for our common future. Then there were UN-based conferences on human environment, like Human Environment Conference of UN in 1972, which since not only sensitized the nations around the globe, but also the nations came up with solutions or goals or aims for counter for countering the environmental issues. And here in this chapter, we study environmental thoughts and history, how these thoughts were generated and how these thoughts evolved throughout the history from past to now. It is basically about the history of environmental thoughts as how the environmental issues gained attention of the masses around the globe. Second chapter is sustainable development issues. For example, in first chapter, we thought about sustainability. That's if we want to overcome issues like poverty, malnutrition, starvation, etc., etc. We need to develop projects. But if we do the projects on unsustainable pattern, then these projects or consequences will destroy our biophysical environment. In that case, again, we are in trouble. We cannot maximize our profits, our economic conditions by destroying environment. Again, we were in a lose situation. So we thought about sustainability. Now, to achieve sustainability, we introduce some goals like sustainable development goals, but there are some problems which are halting the way to achieve those goals. These are called sustainable development issues. In this chapter, we study the issues which are halting the progress of sustainability, like population growth, food security, industrialization, environmental degradation, energy security. Fossil fuels are alternatives. Third chapter is interdisciplinary nature of environmental science. Means we call again and again that environmental science is a multidisciplinary subject. It means that many subjects have contributed literature for environmental science to become a subject. Like we study in this chapter that how environmental science is interlinked with other sciences, how it has evolved as a subject. For example, when we define environmental science, we say everything that surrounds us is environment, like biosphere, lithosphere, atmosphere, biology, physics, geology, geography. Now, environmental sciences link with all these spheres and all these subjects. For example, when we try to understand some biological phenomena or process, it is biology. When it has some impact on the environment or human environment or biophysical environment, we call it environmental biology. Like we study plate tectonics, earthquake, volcanic eruptions, in geology, but when these have some impact on environment, we call it environmental geology. Likewise, from formation of glacier to ablation rate to carbonaceous, we study these issues in geography. But when these have some impacts like glacial lake outburst floods and their impacts, we call it environmental geography. In third chapter, we study the nature of environmental sciences in linked with other sciences. Fourth chapter is about environmental pollution, means environmental problems. Because if we want to counter environmental issues, we should know about the environmental problems. The foremost problem is global warming, which is caused by GHG emissions, and we call it pollution. In this chapter, we study how is pollution caused, what are the drivers, what are the indicators, and pollution types like air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, land pollution. Then factors which are contributing to these pollutions and impacts of those pollutions, means impact of water pollution, impact of soil pollution, impact of air pollution, and their solutions, how to counter these pollution types. Fifth chapter is about climate change, means what is climate change, what is difference between weather and climate, what is greenhouse effect, and what evidences do we have to claim that climate is changing, and indicators, and then counter mechanism like how world countries are coping with the issues of climate change through adaptation and mitigation, and then the politics of climate change, means the controversial science of climate change, as the world is divided on myth and reality of climate change. Then the big players in this politics like US and China, etc. We study the climate change as a whole, its politics, its emergence, its issues, its evidences, and its impacts on natural and societal system. Sixth chapter is about environmental governance. Means in this chapter we study about the environmental governance structure, which bodies are working for environment, what are the rules, acts, and regulations that govern the human behavior in link with environment, and policies, acts, and strategies like national climate change policy, like national safe drinking water policy, and strategies like solid waste management, and the institutions who are doing legislation. Seventh chapter is about global initiatives. As we know that climate change and environmental issues are global issues, so there is need of a global consensus and global projects to cope with these issues. And these are actually called protocols and conventions like uh, Kyoto Protocol on GHG emissions, like Paris Agreement, wherein we have decided to cap the emissions to 1.5 degree Celsius, and then conventions like Convention on Biological Diversity, Convention on Ramsar Convention, etc. Then the role of UN in implementing these protocols, and global impacts and responsibility of countries, etc. We study in this chapter about protocols and conventions, which are international protocols and convention ratified by international governments to come up with solutions and counter mechanism for issues like deforestation, for wetlands, for migrating birds, for GHG emissions, for global warming. The last chapter is about environmental assessment and management. Environmental assessment and management means that we have to assess the problems in our environment, and then we have some tools to manage those problems. Like if we have an issue of solid waste, we have a tool like incineration, like landfill. These are management and solid waste is issue, and incineration is our management. We study in this chapter about environmental problems and their management techniques and tools. Like urbanization, industrialization, environmental quality, and impacts and management tools. Like uh, in the first chapter, we talked about sustainability and then unsustainable pattern of development. The development on an unsustainable pattern is a issue because when we construct some project, when we construct a dam, a building, a society, infrastructure, roads, if we doing these projects in an unsustainable pattern way, it means these projects contribute to degrade our biophysical environment. Now, this degradation is an environmental issue. To manage this issue, the countries have legally binding to go through EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment, to predict the future consequences of these projects and to offer alternatives. So it means that we are offering some management tool to prevent the environmental degradation in future. Basically, in this chapter, environmental assessment and management, we study environmental issues and assess them, prioritize them, and manage those issues with the help of tools, techniques, or management tools. These 8 chapters are included in the syllabus of CSS and PMS exam. Uh, I hope it serves your purpose and you are now able to decide on opting this subject for your exams. And good luck and best wishes.